So, what generally happens is we have some success. So, we have a big event, we have like sales closed a lot, like you have your best month. And then we kind of take off that hat because
It's like,
we had the success. Yeah, I got this. I know how to do this. Right. And what happens is I say, success breeds complacency. And so then we become complacent in sales. And so we're not continually looking and asking and being out there. We kind of go into our delivery mode, which is what we love because we could talk about it all day long. But I love what you said about loving sales because I actually worked with a client who at the beginning was kind of like, sometimes I have a great month, sometimes I don't. And she said, Cheryl, I actually love sales more than I do the delivery now. And she was a branding expert. And I was like, I love that. That's a great quote. So she loved the sales part. And it just made me smile because you got to love sales. You have to love. And the thing is, we all love helping people. That's all we're doing is we're helping people in exchange and they're paying us not, but I always say not by the hour. They're paying for the value of our knowledge and our experience that will help them grow, that will help them get further faster, that will help them have a bigger impact.
Today, I'm excited to be introducing you to one of our Ignite speakers. Cheryl Burget is the CEO of Your Sales Genius, and she is teaching entrepreneurs how to lead with service and making sales. After spending 18 years climbing the corporate ladder in the competitive financial world, Cheryl thought she had achieved success selling $168 million in investment strategies until one day, all of that changed. No longer aligned with old school sales tactics, Cheryl set out on a mission to help service-based entrepreneurs put sales at the front of their business, with service being the focal point of every conversation. She defines sales as an acronym, meaning serving anyone lovingly, effectively, and successfully. Her passion is to support entrepreneurs to embrace sales so that they can own, thrive, and succeed in their business. I think we have the same love language on sales. I had a blast in this interview, and you're going to love meeting Cheryl and hearing her good wisdom on how you can raise up your sales to fit into this new paradigm of business. Let's meet Cheryl Burget. Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio, Cheryl. I am so excited to have you here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I have been sitting and watching from afar and so glad that I finally we connected and I got to be here today.
Oh, it's so good. I know. And you actually moved some things around for me, so I appreciate that. And I am so excited that you're going to be at Ignite come November 2nd through 4th.
Yay, I can't wait. I've heard it's amazing. In fact, somebody emailed me just the other day and said, "Oh my gosh, I see that you're going to speak at Cami Gildner's event. I can't wait to see you." And I was like,
Oh,
"Cool."
totally, totally. And
Yeah.
it's you talk about breaking through the paradigms of old school sales. I talk about breaking through the paradigms of old school marketing and doing businesses in different ways. I think we're building this new paradigm of business and perfect fit for the room. Totally perfect fit for the room. And your topic is going to fit so nicely into the full weekend. So I'm excited to dig into some of this today because um, I know you built one amazing, incredible corporate career
Hmm.
and, sold 168 million dollars of business.
Hmm.
And that wasn't even enough, right? It was like what the push, the pull, all the stuff. What happened there? Tell us a little bit more about what happened.
Well, I think from a very young age, I kind of was naive, and my mother and father both had college degrees. My mother was a math and Latin major with an IQ of 168.
Oh my
That kind
gosh.
of tells you something. And
Yeah.
so I really never thought that I had a choice in going to college. And when after the first semester, somebody didn't come back to the dorm, and I'm like, "Well, where'd they go?" And they're like, "They dropped out." And I'm like, "Drop out? Like, I
People
didn't
can
know
do
you
that.
could drop out of college." So I was going. Took me
Yeah.
4.5 years. I got through. And I always imagined myself, I think I was out to prove things at that climbing the corporate ladder, right? And I fell into investment management, and I fell into working for a mutual fund company and then an investment advisor, where at the end I had a 10-state territory. I was on the road all the time. And Cami, you know me. I like to connect. I like to be a part of a community. And I was lonely on the road. I did not like being on the road every week. And yet I was doing really well.
You were
And
cranking because that's
I
what
was
you
cranking.
brought up to do.
Hmm. I mean, a slow week, I used to track it on a calendar, and a slow week for me was less than $1 million. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
that week sucked, right?
Wow.
And so but I also really liked my clients. And when the market turned, I couldn't do anything about it. I'm
So
not,
how long ago, what market turning was that?
so that was in 2008
Eight.
is
Okay, that's what I
really,
was going to guess.
yeah.
I was going to guess that one. Okay.
And, and it was really difficult.
Yeah.
And I liked my clients. I couldn't do anything. And I was like, oh, I got to find something else to do. And, quite honestly, you kind of get into this place of, what else am I going to do? Right. And I
Yeah.
just was led to finding my passions, and my passion that I discovered, top five, one of them was inspiring others to find their own greatness and empowering them to live it. Now, the what is important. The how just started showing up. And then I got more and more clear that my calling was really that I did sales differently. And
And even
I
so, even back when you were doing the investment sales,
Mhm.
you were doing sales differently.
I was, because the same things that motivated other people did not motivate me. He's like, buy a bigger house.
And
I'm
you're
like,
like,
I don't need
yeah.
a bigger house. I'm good. That'll just stress me out.
Yeah.
Um, and so I wasn't ever driven for the money for I was never driven by money for the money. I was driven by money so that I could have more choices, so that
Yeah.
life could be easy, so that, things like that, that I could give to who I want to, help who I wanted to.
Yeah.
Um, so it was and so I just started paying attention to what did I do differently
Mm-hmm.
that set me apart from other people that I either didn't agree with. That was really it, who I didn't agree with. So I made a choice to take a leap and left corporate, and the what I thought was going to replace my income blew up about 3 months in.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I found myself going, well, you better figure it out. Your dad always says you land on your feet, so you better figure it out. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And what did you do to figure that out? What was the journey to that?
Well, I mentioned the passion test earlier, and
Uh,
I had been asked to speak on a stage of 500 people in New Mexico for the criminal justice department at their
okay.
conference.
Uh-huh.
And I was such a rookie. I didn't even know how risky what I did was, so risky, but it worked. And
Right.
so the owners of the passion test said, we'd like you to become a master trainer for us. We don't know what
Oh,
that looks
interesting.
like. Yeah.
I didn't
And
know this.
yeah, I know. It's kind of my I mean, it's my
Yeah.
former
Yeah.
life
Yeah. Uh-huh.
before the investments. And so I stayed in the investment business and trained as a trainer for probably a year and a half, and
Mm-hmm.
really helped train over 1,500 passion test facilitators from 53 countries, and traveled all over the world, and really got good at, being in the moment, delivering with people. But I realized that we were training all these facilitators that didn't know how to build a business.
And you
And
see that as that's actually kind of what has driven me a lot in my business as well, because it breaks my heart to see somebody have a passion around what they want to be doing, and then they that struggle. And it's not to say that it's always easy. It's like we're all going to have growth and struggle in our businesses, but finding smarter ways and different ways to grow our businesses can be really that's really life-giving.
it really is. And what I always thought was so sad is that people had the passion and desire to do it, yet they didn't have a formula or a system.
Mm-hmm.
So I took over and ran a program that helped them build a business. Now, what I also learned during that time is some people wanted to take action and some people didn't. And there were things that held them back. And so think I have pretty much at this point, under my own company, learned the clients that I'm looking for that I can truly help. And those are serious driven business owners who really want to have an impact. It's not about I want to, make $1 million or, you know, that's great if
Yeah.
that happens.
Uh-huh.
But it's really about the impact you have. And what I've always admired about you, Cami, is you've always, at least your messaging has always been super clear to me about coming from your soul and coming from that place of wisdom.
Yeah.
And I
And
have
impact, right? I
an
mean, it's
impact.
my clients want to make an impact. When I look at I look across my roster of clients I've had over the years, they all want to make an impact. And yes, they want to make money too. And there's no, it's like, but it's not making money for the sake of no impact. I mean, it's impact is such a big calling to my clients.
Hmm. And mine too.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
more than just, paying your bills.
Right.
It's, I have a message that's truly needs to get out there.
Yeah.
And what's the best way to do that is create a business that sustains you, right?
Yeah.
That gives you the opportunity and the chances to get in front of more people. So that's why I'm so glad to be connected with you. And we've known each other for a long time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. But we haven't
um,
got to play together until
we
now, which
haven't.
I'm really excited, super excited about it.
Me
Um,
too.
so I know you talk about old school sales tactics and, kind of really leaving those behind, even though you weren't really, I mean, you were probably doing some of them just because you had to, back in the investment days. But what are those old school sales tactics that you want to say goodbye to and help really eradicate?
So this is really the pinnacle and the turning point that my we used to open funds. So we would open a fund for our clients, and then we were all required on the day they opened to convince our clients to invest in that product. Well, if it wasn't good for them and their strategy, I was not okay with saying, well, you have to do it because we did this for
Because it
you,
didn't fit in the mix
because
of
it
what they're
didn't
really trying to
fit.
do.
Right. And so I had a philosophical and ethical like disconnect
Yeah.
about having people do things as I wanted them to do something. Well, too bad.
Yeah.
So that was the point I really realized that for me, sales was about how do I serve others? How do
Mhm.
I serve them and solve their problem?
Mhm.
So on that day, if they didn't have that problem,
You're
then I
like,
couldn't solve it. So I think what I teach my clients is that really digging into what someone's problem is and listening and not trying to fit something you absolutely don't do into solving their problem because that's a disaster,
yeah.
but doing what's right for the person that's sitting in front of you.
And
um,
really being present with them, right?
mhm,
And I think that really changes the conversation because a lot of times when I'm working with entrepreneurs, especially newer entrepreneurs, they don't like sales. And
mm-mm.
one of the classes that I teach in my mastermind program is called Falling in Love with Sales. And it's called
Oh,
that because I had to fall in love with sales myself, right? There was I came out of the corporate world and I had always supported, it's a VP of marketing. I was always supporting sales and had strong partnerships with them. And sometimes, kind of tension, a lot of tension between sales and marketing. I mean, that was definitely, there was those spaces like that. And I love my marketing people. I still have relationships with the people or the salespeople that I worked with back in the day. Just had a conversation with one of them this week, and and that's 15 years ago. But it's there can be tension between sales and marketing, and so I had these preconceived perceptions. I will wholly admit I had that going into being an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, salespeople, da da da. And I was like, oh wait a minute, I have to be a salesperson in my business. In order to make this work, I got to be able to, do this. And so that was that space where I had to really change up, and luckily I had some really good teachers show up for me and teach me some really different ways of approaching sales, and I did learn to fall in love with sales, right? And it
mhm.
was because I could really be present and be there to serve. So that was some of the shift that really helped me come into that space of this is actually kind of fun, right? So tell us, when you talk about service as sales,
Mhm.
what does that mean to you?
So, what it means is that you are super clear about the problem you solve for people. So, for
Hmm.
example, for me, the problem I solve for people is um, they don't know how to get consistent clients or leads.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
don't know how to close sales.
Hmm.
Therefore, they're not making a big impact. They're making a small impact, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
generally, they have a dislike of sales at some level or mindset about it, just like
Yeah.
you did, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think we have a stereotypical, sales will
I
say
do.
anything to close the deal, and things like that. And that's where I really rebelled against. I was hired on a team. I was the first woman they ever hired, and there was 28 men and me.
Wow.
And yeah, and you want to talk about tough? I felt like I was in boot camp. I
Yeah,
mean, it
no
was
doubt.
continue, and
That had to take a lot of courage.
oh, I don't know if it's courage or stupidity, but I always know that I'm where I'm supposed to be at the time so I can learn a lesson,
Exactly.
right?
Totally.
So I learned the lesson that
Yeah.
I learned all the things I didn't want. And then even going to a more heart-centered space that swung the other way, I was like, wait, this isn't okay either. And I
Yeah,
was
because that feels really uncomfortable, right? When you first
right.
step there.
Right. And I was sitting in a call one day, and your clients and listeners will know what I'm talking about. I had a download on a phone call because people were saying, I don't want to call it sales. Hmm. Well, and the acronym came to me. Sales means serving anyone lovingly, effectively, and successfully. And I just went, that's it. That's what's different. Now, when I say anyone, I mean you've got to identify your ideal client and your target market, but and it isn't truly anyone, but A fits, right?
Yeah.
I had to make the A
Yeah.
fit. But
Yeah.
um, what I noticed, Cami, is that in entrepreneurs, it's a lot about our perception of worth, especially when we're delivering services, and that's who I primarily work with, and helping them to understand that if I pay let's just use iPhone as an example. If I pay $1,200 for an iPhone, I'm going to take care of it a little more than if I paid $200 or got a free flip phone from Motorola, right?
Right. Right.
So, what we invest in is really our representation of our commitment, not to ourselves, but also to our clients. Um, so helping people to see that what they were doing is solving a problem that the entrepreneur can't solve themselves, that you're an expert at. So, and I always say this is my kind of linchpin, I think, is be committed to an outcome for their sake, but let go of the attachment.
So good. So
You
good.
and I know
Yeah.
when we've been
You,
approached by somebody who's attached.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's like they're like, it's a persistence, and it feels
Mhm.
yucky, right? I
It
mean, we
does.
can feel it in our body. So that, showing up, another saying I've heard, I don't know if I can say it in the exact way, but it's kind of similar. It's the show up in your best sales skill sets to really serve that person. So it's kind of in that same alignment, right?
Yeah,
But again, let go of the attachment. Um,
right.
and it's, and because we can also get lazy. And I know that there's times in my business where I've gotten lazy in how I show up as a salesperson. Because I can get too lax in it. So can you address that?
I'm happy to address it. I just addressed it yesterday. This is such a great question. So, what generally happens is we have some success. So, we
Right.
have a big event, we have like sales closed a lot, like you have your best month. And then we kind of take off that hat because
It's like,
you had the
yeah.
success. Yeah, I got this. I know how to do this, right? And what happens is I say, success breeds complacency.
Hmm.
And so then we become
Interesting.
complacent in sales. And so we're
Yeah.
not continually looking and asking and being out there. We kind of go into our delivery mode,
Yeah.
which is what we love because we could
Yeah.
talk about it all day long.
Yeah.
But I love what you said about loving sales.
Mhm.
because I actually worked with a client who at the beginning was kind of like, sometimes I have a great month, sometimes I don't. And
Mm.
she said, Cheryl, I actually love sales more than I do the delivery now. And she was a branding expert. And I was like, I love that. That's a great quote. So she loved the sales part. And it just made me smile because you got to love sales. You have to love. And the thing is, we all love helping people.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing is
Yeah.
we're helping people in exchange, and they're paying us not for but I always say not by the hour. They're paying for the value of our knowledge and our experience that will help them grow, that will help them get further faster, that will help them have a bigger impact.
Yeah. And when we love sales, we energetically show up in that space in a different way, because we're excited about what we're doing. We're there to be really in relationship with that person,
Yes,
and that changes that energy for sure. So I'll be. So will you be at Ignite? Will you be sharing some of the things that we should be like? Is should the right word? The things that we can do in our sales processes and the ways we show up. Will you be sharing some of that?
I will. In
Yay.
fact, I'll share some of the key components
Uh
of
huh.
what makes people, like, kind of do's and don'ts,
Uh
right?
huh.
What
Uh
make
huh.
people successful,
Uh huh.
and how do they go from I'm not a salesperson to, oh my gosh, I love sales, because it really is helping someone. It really is
Yeah.
serving them. I know that this is true for you. I'm going to guess that some of the happiest moments in your business is when your clients call you and they've had a big win.
Oh yeah, I've
And
had some really great ones this week where I've been like, "Oh my God, that is so exciting."
well, tell me one. Give to
One
share.
of them just got a $15,000 speaking opportunity, which was like, yes. Another one closed a CEO sales conversation and at a really nice high value.
Hmm.
So it's like some really those have both happened this week. Um, so
That's
super,
great.
I love it, right?
I had a client, this is my best testimonial, and also he texted me this week. So obviously we contract or we have cash in the door, right? So it's a
Mhm.
different number. Going out and making the sale, you might not always get paid at that time.
Right.
So he texted me this week and he said, and it's not even like halfway through the month, and he says, I just pulled $20,000 in the door this month. And when I started talking to him, he was making last year he made less than $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
So that's a big win. And he literally said, he stood up and said, I hate Cheryl because I am so busy and I've made so many sales. I don't have any time left.
Well,
And
then you start working on that business model.
exactly. And we've been working on the business model. And I said, you can pay somebody to set this up for you. Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to do this because
Yeah.
he's a high level attorney. He does not need to spend his time, just send something on a voice recorder, have somebody transcribe it. And that's what you do, get it out of your
Yeah.
head and onto somebody else's paper,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Oh, I so love it. I so
Yeah.
love it. Um, so what else I want to ask you? What's the key secret to helping people become comfortable with sales? Is it the service piece?
It really is mindset. It's
It's mindset. Ooh,
changing their mindset. And it's also consistency.
yeah.
Like anything, um, I like to say I was a former gymnast. I'm lying, but I wanted to be. And when people meet me, I'm 5'11". So, but getting consistent, and doing it, on a regular basis, time blocking, and not, skipping over it or putting something else in there. And I even have calls with my clients where I lay out a month where Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we do 90 minutes or 60 minutes of sales calls, and we put everybody on mute and we commit to how many we're going to do. And it's getting better. Like anything else, you get better at practice. And the only way that you get better at sales is when you're doing it and you run into obstacles where people say something to you, or I just had a client that I was talking to this morning, and he got asked the question, are you the final decision maker? And he's fairly new to his company and he didn't know how to really answer that. And he felt like it was going to shut down every deal he ever did. And I go, oh no, you say I'm 25 feet from the door of the person. If I am questioning anything, I can ask. So there's no levels, there's no anything. I have 85% of the decisions I can make on my own. About 15% I may just need to get a double check, but the office is 25 feet from me. And he was like,
Oh, that's
that's an
brilliant.
amazing answer. I go, what you don't know, and can I share a secret with your
Oh, totally.
entire listeners?
Please, please. They like that.
Okay. So I have Cheryl, and then I have a higher self, and her name is Carol. And when Carol, and we know all this, when Carol says something, I can hear her auditory, and sometimes it comes out of my mouth, and I'm like, that was so good, Carol. Thanks. Because she's always in my ear saying what needs to come out, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't want to talk about Meryl.
She's the other one.
She's the one who got really mad yesterday when DoorDash didn't deliver her drinks and she had already paid for them. And he told me to take it up with the company. And I was like, yeah, Meryl was not happy. So it doesn't happen
Carol
often.
and Meryl.
Carol and Meryl. Yep. In between there's
So good.
Cheryl. Yeah.
So good. I love it. I love it. So one other thing that's kind of popping up for me is just the whole realm of online sales that's really, taken shape and just building online relationships. Anything that you have to, as people are building, as our listeners are building relationships with people online, how to move those into a sales conversation more quickly. Any thoughts on that?
Yes. I got a
I
perfect.
thought you might.
You know what? I was like, I don't know where she's going with this. That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, digital. Okay. So, for lack of a better title, I call it the magic question. Okay. There's a magic question that everybody has, and some you can have a couple, right? That you ask someone that you are the answer to. So let me give you an example. If I said to you, Cami, hey, we're talking and we're having conversations, and you're at a networking event, and I say, and we know each other, but we don't, and we're having a good conversation, and you're telling me about the trip you just took, and I say, so can I ask you a question? And I very casually will say, obviously you're here at this networking event. My magic question is, are you looking for more clients?
Yeah.
And if your answer is yes, then my response to that is, hey, can we jump on a call? And I could maybe help you, I could help you, not maybe, I could help give you some suggestions and solutions on ways to get more clients. Would that be helpful for you?
Yeah.
Completely from a place of service.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you, and I'm giving you a reason to show up on a call.
Yeah. And you're
It's
not being
about
pushy
you.
about it. You're not being sleazy about, because we do get hit with those every single day, all the
Mhm.
online pieces. So
Mhm.
really finding your question that leads to, yes, that's really what I'm looking for, right?
And fulfilling on that. So every
Yeah.
single person I talk to, I absolutely give them some suggestions and tips. And sometimes the suggestion is, I give them some tips and then I say, what I really think you need to do is if you don't have a sales plan, you don't have, it's not a business plan because business plans are for banks, sales plans are for making money in your business. And I say, if you don't have a consistent process, then, you owe it to yourself to get one because that's the main component that makes you a business. And so I will offer to work with me. Now, there are times where I don't because they're not ready or
Yeah.
it's not a good fit and I think after you've been in business for a while, you start to learn what's a good fit and what's not. Yeah.
Definitely start to learn that. And you go, ooh, I want this energy, or I don't want this energy, or they're in the wrong place in their business. There's just so many different ways to really learn who's your ideal fit.
And you have to go through some of them that aren't your ideal fit to learn what that is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So true. So what lights you up these days, Cheryl?
Oh my gosh. What lights me up is seeing people's businesses transform. Seeing them go from struggle to vacationing, struggle to a piece about knowing that I'm thinking about a client that I worked with for about a year, and she was freaked out about, I don't know where I'm getting my leads. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And she turned around and within 2 years um, had a $400,000 business. So those types of things, when I know that I was a little part of it,
See
obviously
it. Yeah. You
people
can
have
see
to
the,
take action,
oh,
you know,
totally. Right.
and when they're not, and they're not having the results, when people tell me they're not having the results, I had somebody say to me one time, I hate putting zeros on my report every month. And I said, well, the only one who can change that is you. So let's take one thing you can do to move the needle. So and I love people. Nobody
Oh,
here
I know.
knows, I traveled for 2 years,
I was
and
going to ask you about this. So,
that's so good. I'm just glad I'm just bringing it up. So my partner's a golf pro, and
uh-huh.
she wanted to teach during the winter in Florida, Arizona, Texas, and so we got in a motorhome. Now it had to be Princess. We had a washer dryer. We had all the amenities.
Yeah.
We just didn't know how to fix it when it broke down. That's
Yeah.
a little problem.
That is a little, yeah.
Hmm. Not
Or
handy.
big
It was a
problem,
big.
maybe.
You should have seen one time. I was like, we just need to get some tie downs and hook that bunk bed up. Attach it. Oh my gosh. We had very funny moments about getting from place to place. And what I learned is that I am a people person and I love community. I love being in places where there are positive people. You and I both have spent time at the Village workspace, which is, more positivity than you can even consume in a day. Um,
Gina leading
oh,
that up. She's such a positive person.
oh my
Gina
gosh.
Schreck. You guys can
Yep.
listen to Gina Schreck on Extraordinary Women Radio. She was one of my earlier guests, and what she's built from a community space in since that time. I think it was probably 3 or 4 years ago that Gina was on, and what
Hmm.
she's built now has just been amazing. She's got multiple co-working spaces, and Gina is so full of positive energy.
Oh,
So
she lights me up every time when I see people. Cammie, you're a person who lights me up.
mm,
Whenever I see you, there is a warmth of a
thank you.
connection. We've probably only had a glass of wine one time together, but there's a
We
warmth and
should
a
have more of
knowing.
those. We
We
should remedy
should.
that.
Yes, yes. I'm for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But having that connection and knowing and respecting and liking and interested about what other people are doing,
Right.
feeling that collaboration,
Yeah.
um,
So you were
all of
missing
that.
that community.
Oh, the last 6 months I was on the road, I think I cried every day.
Oh wow. Because
It was
you
so
wanted that grounding
hard.
back to your community.
Yeah, I thought I could do it,
Uh-huh.
and I tried.
Uh-huh.
My partner wanted to do it for 8.5 years. I finally said yes, and she flipped her head spun, and was committed though, and there's
Yeah.
no regret.
Yeah.
I did it,
It was
and
a
here we
life
are.
journey, right? An experience. And
Yes.
I mean, you think about what you learned through that. In fact, what were some of your biggest lessons you learned through that?
I love people. I love to be
Yeah.
around people I can. I learned that it wasn't a vacation, right?
Yeah.
I was still working. So if I had retired and done that, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But I learned that I have a really great relationship. If you can spend 2 years in 36 feet, um, with all the things that happened to us, um, and still like each other at the end. Not
Yeah.
only do we like each other, but we
You
really,
love each other.
yeah, we
Yeah.
do.
Well, it's
And
funny because I don't know if I think I've mentioned this to you that my husband and I, just a couple episodes ago on Extraordinary Women Radio, I was talking about our vision of living on a boat together, my husband and I.
uh-huh.
Um, so that's kind of on our vision out there. And I really appreciate the community piece that you're bringing forward because it'd be like that's going to be important is how do I keep community in my life and when we actually get to that space.
Well, the good news is there's a lot of people out there doing the same thing. And
Yeah.
if you don't have to work, if you're not
Yeah.
carrying your business with you, then it's super fun.
Well, and
Um,
so my whole thing is to build my business of the energy that it can live on a boat. So that's some of the
love
things
that.
I'm working on right now is really like what are the shifts that I can make within my business that it creates the energy that it can live on a boat. My business can live on a boat. which is an interesting thought, right? I mean, I don't, it's not there today,
Hmm.
but the opportunities to keep the simplification and to keep the shifts happening, I think definitely are there.
It can. And
Hmm.
while I think that my guess is that you're more of an introvert than I am.
Oh, I am. You're right. I like
And
my introvert time. I like my extrovert time for like a short period of time, and then I need to go home and go like,
right.
okay, let me have my little space.
So true. And I think I am not an extrovert. I'm an extra extrovert.
Hmm.
And but as I've grown, as I've matured, I
Yeah,
do like my alone time in
yeah,
small space and small time frames. But to
yeah,
be gone for 9 months out of the year is, wow, the world has happened. Things have changed. Everybody's doing this. Now you're doing
yeah.
what?
And you were doing it during what was it during COVID?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
So
so it was. I was
we had
thinking it was.
decided beforehand in the fall of 2019 that we were
Hmm.
going to do this. And so it just
Yeah.
took us prep and selling the house and everything. We thought we were doing a great job selling our house at that time
Uh,
and
oh
made a
darn.
great return. And then we come back and we're like, uh, the price they wanted for the house I sold, I was like, I would never pay that. Like
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
And and so that was a shock, right? And I can look at it as regret, or I
Uh-huh.
can look at it as someday those prices are going to fall and I'm going to buy a big house again. No, I've
Yeah.
learned to live in a smaller space, which
Yeah.
going from 36 feet to 880 square feet feels like a mansion, right? And
Yes.
I could have never done it. It had not happened
Yeah.
in that order,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really
Cool.
quick to clean.
There you go. That's definitely a good one. That's so good. That's
Yeah.
so good. So where can people learn more about you, Cheryl, other than coming to Ignite and getting to meet you face to face and be in the room with you? Where can they come? Where can they find you right now?
Okay. So you can go online, and I'm just going to make it simple for people, CherylBurget.com. Um, and we're going to put that in the show notes so that I don't need
Yep.
to spell it
Hmm.
for anyone. But you
Correct.
can go there and you can find out about me. I did a recent, I didn't know I was doing a story brand, but I did. And I took all my pictures at the village, the workspace. And
Cool. Uh-huh.
so it really captures who I am. I think when you're working for other people, you have to fall under you have to wear the certain thing, you have to do this. And I was
Yeah.
like, no, I'm wearing
So,
who I am.
yeah, that's
And
why I'm
who
wearing
I
a
am,
t-shirt today.
yes, exactly. And
Says Rock Me Mama.
rock me, mama. We'll talk about that in a boat later.
Yeah.
That's our private conversation over a glass of wine. But I love to have fun.
Yeah.
Like I love to be, and you know what? Some people will go, they're all buttoned up and they're very professional. And I talked with a coach the other day and I'm like, oh, she must think I'm a wingnut because I'm about getting to know people, helping them through. I have a lot of intuition, like we talked about Carol. And I just really go with my gut because that's really I have knowledge. I keep up with things. I read books. I do all kinds of things. But um, yeah, I really dive into what it is in each person that is sabotaging them, that's creating that, knowing that every single person you meet um, deals with imposter syndrome, for example,
Yeah.
and knowing and having. So I'm getting ready to jump into a role this year in BNI. I'm going to be the president of our chapter, and what I want as my theme year is be kind and lead with grace. Be kind and lead with grace because people are doing the best they can, and you never know what's going on behind the scenes. So let's shut down the judgment. Let's be kind and lead with grace.
Cool,
So
cool. So that kind of rolls right into three pearls of wisdom. So I always close with what are three pearls of wisdom, but that seems like the first one, right? Is be kind and lead with grace. What
yes,
other two pearls of wisdom would you like to add?
I think one would be the second one would be have fun.
Mm.
Business is serious, but it's not all that serious. And if you learn, here's my third pearl of wisdom. If you learn how to make money with a skill set that does not turn people off and that feels good in your heart, you will never go broke. You can always remake money, right? Money you can always remake. If you lose it, you make a bad decision and it goes away, you can always remake money, but you can't remake time. So there you
So
go.
good. And that's, I think, one of the things that we'll be talking about at Ignite is how do we create more time prosperity and wealth prosperity in our businesses.
Oh,
So you can see why this all fits together so beautifully.
good
And
pick.
yeah,
Good job.
yeah, totally. Right.
Yeah.
So if you want to join us at Ignite, it is CamiGilner.com/Ignite. And I look forward to seeing you there in the room, Cheryl. And I'll probably see you before then too. So give you a big hug. So thank you so much
Oh,
for joining me today.
oh, thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah, it has been. It's been a really fun conversation.